I want to just welcome Julie, and Carrie is in from Sebastopol, Karen from Hawaii, Brandy Lee, Mitch, Timothy, Leslie, Patty, Robert, Jill. We're so glad you're here. Sylvia's here. Jessica from Santa Rosa is here. Jackie from Palm Springs, Colleen, Larissa, and Susan, and many, many more. We're so glad everybody's here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for mentioning it on Facebook that you are here and letting us know that you love the music, that you loved the prayer this morning. All of it is so very good. So let us prepare ourselves, if you will. If you put your hand over your eyes, I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today. And now over your heart, I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. The spiritual truth that I'm working with today is that we live in an unlimited universe. And I want to spend some time this morning talking about how we can be more generous in our life. Because generous individuals create a generous society. So, right now I'm reading one of the best books I've read in a long time. It's called The Book of Joy. It's a conversation between Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama. And in their conversation, they come to this conclusion that generosity is one of 6 pillars of joy and happiness. Generosity is one of 6 pillars of joy and happiness. So why is it so important for us to be talking about generosity at this time? Shouldn't we be focused on police violence, on racism, on COVID-19, on how many people are hungry as a result of COVID-19 right now? Yes, we should be focused on that. And part of that focus needs to be developing a consciousness of generosity. See, generous people are happy people. And happy people are not mean-spirited. Happy people want to draw the circle bigger, not smaller. Happy people are the people who say, come on, people of color. Come on, white people. Come into the circle of love. Come on, people, transgender people. Come on, immigrants, into the circle of love. Come on, ex-cons. Come on, people with disability, into the circle of love. Come on, millionaires. Come on into the circle of love. Come on in, Donald Trump, into the circle of love, and bring your Bible. Reverend Rick is going to teach you how to read the Bible. Come on in. We have enough love for everybody at the Center for Spiritual Awareness. Now, I can be generous with my love and only gain. I never lose when I'm generous with my love. Some people come through love naturally, and some people need to learn how to be more loving. That's why generosity is taught in every religion that I know. One of the 5 pillars of Islam is generosity. In Judaism, they encourage their children to have a little box in their room called a tzedakah box, where they put their coins for poor people. Hindus and Buddhists call their generous time dana. And Christianity, they call their generosity charity. Now, look, I'm not talking about giving. We all know how to give. If you've been alive in any December at all, you know how to give. Some of us have given with a generous heart. Some of us have given in December with a guilty heart. Some with an obligatory heart. But we all knew how to give. But giving is not an event. It's a way of being. It's not a coat that we take on or we give off. Generosity is like skin that we wear. This is a being talk, not a doing talk. I'm not trying to get you to do something. And I promise it's not a fundraising talk for CSA. You've been very generous through this time of sheltering in place at CSA, and we appreciate it. This is not that kind of a talk. Rather, it's a talk how we can be generous so we can create a world that works for everyone, regardless of how you look, how you love, how you worship, what kind of car you drive, or anything else that's external. We want to create a world that works for everybody. And generosity of spirit is a foundational belief to get us there. How do we learn to be generous in our heart and generous in our spirit? Well, we have to actually practice it. See, because for some of us, we don't actually know how to do that. And the minute I say that we don't know how to do something, then our mind goes to, well, I know how to do that. Knowing how to do something and doing it are often miles apart. We need to be teachable, to become generous of spirit. If you're like me, when somebody says something like, well, you don't know how to do that, I immediately think of all the times I did just that in my life. That's the kind of defensiveness that we get. Or as soon as somebody says, I'm not a certain way, then I think of all the ways that I'm that certain way. You know, if Donna says, you know, you need to help more around the house, I might say, well, don't you remember in 2014, I emptied the dishwasher. You know, you came home and the dishes were all put away. I emptied the dishwasher. I know how to help around the house. You know, here's what we need. I'm hoping we can become open to the idea that we can all improve our generosity of spirit in our heart. So to improve all of us, so that we can improve life for all sentient beings on the planet. Some of us are already good at being generous. And I'm still talking to you. Because let's not being good at having a generous heart block us from being great at having a generous heart. So today I want to explore how to improve our generosity. Most of us know how to do acts of generosity, acts of giving. And acts of giving usually come as a result of somebody asking us, somebody trying to persuade us to do something, somebody inspiring us maybe to do something, maybe guilting us to do something, and then we act. But here's the thing. You know, I was an executive director for a nonprofit in Sonoma County for 20 years. And one of the major jobs of executive directors of nonprofits is going out and finding money to keep the nonprofit going. And every fundraising workshop that I ever went to, they would always say this: the number one reason people aren't giving to your organization is because you didn't ask them to do that. And that's what happens. Generally, somebody makes their needs known, and it's like, wow, we should probably do something about that. And that's great. But it's an event. We want to develop a spirit of generosity with our time and with our talent and with our money. And that will contribute to a generosity, a society of generosity. Starts with us and then goes out. Because of COVID, in this country, we have people who are hungry in this country. When farms have milk and other produce that they're just throwing away because they're not set up for distribution to people in the country who are hungry. We can fix that. That's simply a method. We can fix that. So how do we get our society to become more generous? Becoming more generous as individuals. Learning how, and this is harder, this really I had to take into consideration. We have to learn how to order our life around generosity. And then you will actually give more. And you'll give more of your time, your skills, your material wealth without being asked. You'll actually look for ways to be generous. And when you do, you will feel much happier than you did before you did that generous act. Brain researchers tell us this: being generous not only makes us happy, but healthier. Even when we just think about being more generous, our immune system is boosted. That's amazing. When we just think about being generous, our immune system is boosted. I've never met a person who is generous of spirit who is not fun, who is not easygoing, who is not happy in their life. Generosity has become a keystone habit that trickles down into everything. Now, we have to keep in mind to remind ourselves to be generous, because we didn't come with it natural. Generosity doesn't come naturally. If you've ever been with a small child, you know you have to teach them how to share their toys. It's not natural even for adults sometimes, because we still believe in a limited universe. Once you believe in an unlimited universe, it's so much easier. So quickly, I want to give you 3 myths about generosity. 1, generosity is determined by your cash flow and the amount of discretionary income, discretionary time that you have in your life. You know, I can be generous today because I just got paid, but next week I'm not going to be able to be generous because it's getting toward the end of the month and I'm not going to be able to do that. See, we need to know that we are generous whether we have money or not. It's not about the amount. Being generous is determined by your belief in an unlimited universe. If you went to church as a kid, you might have sung the song, "You cannot outgive God." You can't outgive God. You can't outgive generosity. The second myth about generosity is that it's the amount that counts. So here's the good news. Everybody can be generous. Everybody. You can make a donation. We make a donation, a generous donation, when we understand generosity has very little to do with the zeros behind it. You know, in Luke chapter 38, it says this, "Give and it will be given unto you, a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, run over, and will be poured into your lap. For the measure you use, the measure will be made back to you. It will be measured back to you." See, measure is attitude. It's not the amount, it's the attitude. It's the attitude that makes you a generous person, a person who's organized your life around generosity. A generous person looks for ways to become more generous. You know, you might be in the grocery store and you're busy and you want to get out of the grocery store, but you see a mom with 3 kids. The 3 kids are going crazy. The mom is just at her wit's end, and you take a generous moment out of your busy schedule to go over to that mom and let her know that you understand what's going on, that we're all in this together. And if you're a parent, I don't think you've had an experience where you haven't been in a grocery store at one time when your child, you just like to throttle them right in front of everybody. But you don't, and you need some support. The third final myth is that rich people are generous. When I get rich, then I'm going to be generous. So let's clear this up. Rich people are rich, generous people are generous. Everybody, regardless of your income, can be a generous person. You've all heard the phrase, if you want something done, ask a busy person. So I probably should have started the sermon with the definition of generosity, but I'm going to get to it now. Generosity is a state of being built on the understanding, day in and day out, the understanding, not a brief fleeting understanding. Generosity is a state of being built on the understanding day in and day out that we live in an unlimited universe that is not dependent on anything external. Not dependent on how poor you were when you were growing up. It's not dependent on what the market's doing right now. It's not dependent on your inheritance. It's not dependent on how much money you make. I've met some very wealthy people who are totally stressed out about their money, about keeping their money safe. They're not generous people. I've met some middle income people who had less money and they didn't seem to be stressed out at all about it. And I've met some people on the lower end of the economic spectrum that are stressed out, and at the same time, the most generous people you're ever going to meet. Jesus said it's more blessed to give than to receive. Blessed, the word blessed from the Aramaic, the language of Jesus, is translated to mean happy. Happy are those who give more than to receive. Essentially what he's saying is happiness is a person who's ordered their life around giving than receiving. Happiness is the person whose life, not a moment in time, but a life, not a transaction, not a random act, But happy is the person who's ordered their entire life around generosity. In order to create a life that works for everybody, we have to increase our personal happiness. And ordering our life around generosity is crucial to our personal happiness. To help us, we don't always only have to look at Jesus. Buddha teaches us also about this idea, particularly his thoughts on attachment. Many of you are familiar with the Four Noble Truths. And the second one holds for us some clues as to how to order our life around generosity. The second noble truth is the cause of suffering is attachment. Now, don't get it twisted. It's not the cause of all suffering. It's not the cause. That's not to suggest that we don't have things that we're attached to. But what it does say is if we're attached to something and it goes away, we simply let it go away. Because we believe in an unlimited universe. And we know two things can happen. Either it's gone away and we don't care, or it's gone away and we can replace it again. See, we don't have to control, even our time. That's true of our time. When we understand that we live in an unlimited universe, happiness comes much easier for us. See, there are people who understand. Some indigenous cultures have taught us that the idea of owning land is totally preposterous. And they teach us about attachment. The land belongs to the universe, and it's in our care for a time. And when it's no longer needed to be in our care, we simply allow it to go, and the next person can come in and take care of the land. But it doesn't belong to anybody. People don't belong to us. They belong to the universe. Some of them are in our care for a season, and some for a lifetime. But they don't belong to us. People who lose things don't make themselves sick with shame and anger that they lost something. That mindset of it's mine now to enjoy, and when it's not mine to enjoy, I can simply continue to enjoy life. Many people are looking for love. And I'm telling you, if you're looking for a partner, generosity attracts good people into your life with whom you can choose. You have to let the anger go. If you got laid off during COVID and you're mad at it, let it go. Develop an atmosphere of generosity to surround you and watch the job offers come in. Good, generous people are not restrictive people. They're not all bunched up with pursed lips and judgmental eyebrows. Generous people always make room at the table for people who don't look like them, love like them, worship like them, demonstrate like them. Generous people understand that God likes a variety of people and spaces. Next time you find yourself trying to control somebody else or some situation or somebody's thoughts, or their talk, ask yourself, do I still believe in an unlimited universe? Is there enough room for everybody on the planet? Ask yourself, where might you be more generous today? So this week I'm going to ask you to do two things. One, sign up for the 21 Racial Equality Pledge. Two, hold yourself accountable for every night before you go to sleep. Where was I generous today? Because that will begin to heal the world. Let's take this message into prayer. God is love, and that is all God is. God is just love. Peace and justice and harmony and newness. I give thanks. I give thanks for God for always saying yes and for principles never changing. In this time in which we keep hearing we're entering a new normal in so many ways, a new normal in terms of race relations, a new normal in terms of health, a new normal in ways of doing our daily activities such as coming to church. We're coming into a new normal. But spiritual principles never change. And they will support that new normal. And I'm so grateful for that. I give thanks. I give thanks for the Board of Trustees who met all day yesterday, ironing out next steps. I give thanks for all the people, and especially the music team, who show up here to provide a meaningful and moving service. I give thanks. I release this word into the law, and together we say, and so it is.